Okay, Greytide Studio has very kindly asked me to do some more videos on their awesome stuff, this time on their new Anvil Wardens set, which basically makes awesome basic Space Marines turn into incredible looking Salamander miniatures. So what I've done is I've taken the commemorative series Space Marine Lieutenant with Storm Shield, quite a cool model I've had in my backlog for a while now. I can't help fall into the whole habit of getting the FOMO miniatures and not missing out on limited edition stuff. So I got this guy. He's not particularly crazy. He doesn't really stand out from a standard Blade Guard veteran for me. So I thought with the addition of a bunch of awesome parts and a cool Salamander paint job, I would get something very different. So that's what I'm going to show you what I did in today's video. Now, before I get into it, I do have to do all that normal jazz that people aren't really that interested in, but they does keep the lights on and the cameras rolling. And that is, of course, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to like, drop a comment, and make sure you're subscribed. Those three things cost you absolutely nothing, make a huge difference to how many people see these videos and how quickly the channel grows. If you want to help support the channel even further, there's awesome ways of doing it, like becoming a channel member here on YouTube, or my favorite one, becoming a Patreon member. Those are both linked down below as well. With those two things, you get access to a private Discord server and you get access to an extra video every single week just for you guys. And lastly, if you like buying tons of toys like we all do, I've got some links down below to take you to some awesome places, which is going to save you some money and give a nice kickback to the channel. So that's Underworld Gaming if you're in Ireland, Element Games if you're in the United Kingdom, or My Hobby Place if you're inside of Europe but outside of those two places. Those are the places you order from. So please do check all of those things out for all your purchasing needs. Okay, with all that out of the way, we can now jump in and get some awesome hobby done. As I said in the intro to this video, I was looking for a base model to put all the awesome parts from Greytide Studio on. And of course, this cool exclusive Primaris Lieutenant model seemed to just jump out at me. I wanted a more static pose, no real motion in the model, because I was using a selection of pieces from their kind of heroic pose section of parts. There's hundreds of parts in this collection, but they did a very interesting one, which is like heroic poses, which is more kind of static, standing there, you know, a shield in the ground, like cloak fluttering in the wind, that kind of thing. Really cool pieces. And I knew that's what I wanted to base this miniature around. So I chose a selection of those pieces and got them printed out myself. Obviously, I'm wearing gloves because these pieces are not cured yet. So there's raw resin on them. So that's why you should always be very careful. Wear protection with your rubber gloves. And then I've got some IPA and a toothbrush to clean off the parts. I've got wash and cure stations left, right, and center. But I found for particularly small pieces like this, when you really want to make sure that they're clean, get all the excess resin out of all the nooks and crannies, I find nothing really does it better than a toothbrush and a little bit of patience. And that gives you a really good result on getting the parts ready. So I did spend a bit of time going through the parts, deciding which ones I was going to use. In the end, I did indeed make a mistake. And the shield arm that I printed off, which has a shield kind of held loosely at resting on the ground, I printed off the same side as the spear. But that's the great thing about 3D printing. So I can just go back, select that part again, and then mirror it. So it changes from a left arm to a right arm, and then reprint it, and there you go. So it's another kind of one of those versatility things with printing. It makes it so much easier to get that stuff sorted. So once I had all the parts that I wanted kind of cleaned, set aside and cured, so now they are safe to touch with your hands, hence why I do not need gloves anymore. It was now time to work on the actual commemorative model itself. So I cracked it open to see what I was working with, what parts are stuck to what and all that kind of stuff, if I was going to need to do any kind of cutting or scraping away of excess parts or anything like that. But I was quite lucky in the way he was broken down. Both his arms were completely separate and there was no parts of his arms touching any poor parts of like his torso or anything. So there wasn't going to be any kind of resculpting or covering up work whatsoever. The only real modification part that I had to do was to the backpack, which I'm holding now. Obviously, as I was getting it cleaned up, you know, it already has a kind of an icon there. So I snipped that off and I got that area kind of cleaned off, very sharp scalpel. Whenever I'm doing kind of work like this, I like to change to a fresh scalpel blade, so I can remove any of those excess parts with relative ease. And then I have another back piece from the set that I've printed off and I'm going to glue on. It's a flaming anvil, which really, of course, works for the salamander style of guys. Whilst I was working on this guy, I was genuinely considering doing a squad of Blade Guard veteran to go alongside him. I just thought that would be really cool, using all those extra pieces to really make them stand out. So getting the model prepped, obviously there was only a couple of pieces that I actually needed from the set, which was the torso and legs, which were stuck together already, well, at least the back of the torso. I glued the front on, the extra armor panels, and I was left with something like this. Very simple. The rest of the parts will be coming from the Greytide Studios Anvil Guard set, or Anvil Warden set, apologies. So the spear was my favorite addition. I love that pose where it's kind of down, held ready to the side. Maybe he's addressing the troops, or maybe he's about to begin like a duel or something like that. So he's kind of at rest pose with that. Chose a couple of different cloaks that I printed off, and obviously this one fit the best with the way I positioned the spear. It's kind of fluttering around it, works perfectly. Those big beautiful dragon scales draping down the back. And then I could glue the backpack directly on over that. I briefly thought about using a base topper to make him stand out even more, but I decided he doesn't need that. He's kind of awesome enough as it is, and I didn't want it to interfere with the spear too much. This shoulder pad, which has a Drake skull kind of trophy strapped to it, I couldn't resist using that, so I got that done and glued on. And it was at this point where I realized that the shield that I had already printed was wrong for the other side, so I had to go away and reprint that extra piece. So this is actually quite a few hours later. That time jump there. I got the proper arm, got it glued into place. I added a little bit of cork so I could have the shield directly resting on the ground, and then super glued it into place. Like I said, with that kind of at rest pose, I think it just adds an air of relaxed menace, if that makes sense. You can see this guy leading your army, ready to kind of spring into action and be quite dangerous in combat, I think. So I was very pleased with the final result, which is this. So you can see I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts used from the Greytide Studios. Really changed the entire look of this miniature. And then, of course, we got him sprayed in my traditional way, which is black and a coat of light grey. And then we're going to begin throwing paint at this model. I'm not going to particularly go through the steps on how I paint this model step by step by step by step. If you guys are a fan of the channel, you will know last week I did a video on the new Vulkan He'Stan model. So obviously it's very good timing for this. And there's absolutely nothing in this video that isn't covered in that Vulkan He'Stan video, including big Drake scale cloak and armor and all the different bits and pieces. So if you really do like how this guy turns out and want to follow along, I do recommend you go and check out that video for the actual painting guide. I'm very briefly going to talk to you about why I think collections like this are so important. I mean, for me personally, I am without a shadow of a doubt a collector at heart. That's what I like to do. I like to be surrounded by cabinets full of miniatures. I like to have broad selections of models to choose from. And like, I could read a book and get inspired to do a whole army depending on their story and their lore and their background. And while I think Games Workshop makes the finest miniatures in the world, and I will never stop painting them and collecting them and stuff like that, when it comes to like the individual parts of Space Marine chapters, I don't think they do them justice when they give us an overpriced upgrade pack which just has 10 shoulder pads and 1 head and 1 backpack. You know what I mean? It's not enough to vary a chapter around. They do some great work when it comes to things like Space Wolves or whatever. They're Dark Angels. They have a whole collection of miniatures. But when you're thinking about the more codex stringent chapters, you know, Ultramarines, Salamanders, Raven Guard and stuff, there's just not enough variation. And to be frank, I don't particularly want to paint, you know, 40 units of 10 intercessors over and over again. Oh, these ones are the same, but they're green. These ones are the same, but these are yellow. These are the same, but they're black. That's not inspiring for me. That doesn't make me want to push forward and do a whole new army. Even if their rules are slightly different, that's not enough for me. So being able to access a collection of pieces like this and really go to town on a squad and make them stand out. I mean, if you look at artwork for Salamanders, you will see that they are very clearly festooned with iconography of drakes and dragons and scales and all those anvils and everything, which means I wish those would translate better to a miniature. And because of how easily accessible 3D printing has become, whether it be you having a 3D printer in your own home and can print out these parts yourself, or the amount of third-party resellers who will print out these parts for you and then send them straight to your front door to be used in creating your army, I think is a really cool thing and something that I think is just going to get more and more prevalent as time goes on. I mean, I first fell upon the Greytide Studio guys with the release of Black Templar stuff. Obviously, I'd done all of the new kits that Games Workshop had brought out for Black Templars, but then it was time to add in some more like standard codex units. And next to my already crazy looking Black Templars with all their tabards and, you know, bucket helmets and crosses everywhere, a normal squad just looked so out of place. So I purchased those files, I printed out a whole bunch of stuff, and I've got a super unique unit of Terminators and aggressors and all sorts of different bits using those parts, which has made a huge difference for me. It's opened up a whole new avenue of units and stuff to add into that army. The extra stuff as well for tanks, dreadnoughts. Their dreadnought stuff is also incredible. I haven't seen them do anything specific for the Salamanders one just yet, so hopefully that will come in the very near future, because I think apart from the Dark Angel one, I've done all of them. So I've done a Blood Angel one, done a Black Templar one, I've done a Space Wolf one, all using their parts. I'm a Dreadnought-aholic, I think. So hopefully at some point in the near future we'll get some Salamander parts for one, and I'll get one of those painted up as well, I think. I always knew there would be a Salamander army in my future. I just love the story of them so much, how much they care about the basic human, how they fight, how unique the chapter is as goes its formations. So I am very much glad to have access to these files these days. I'd love to know your thoughts and feelings on stuff like that, guys. Do you agree with me, or does it not matter to you? Do you just take a squad of intercessors and paint them whatever color you want, and that gives you the feeling? Do you use like the imagination of the mind to make it suit a little bit better? Or is more the rules and stuff the reason that you collect miniatures, therefore the kind of individuality of each model doesn't matter so much? Would you go to the effort of printing off a whole bunch of other parts to make them stand out a little bit more on the tabletop, knowing it has absolutely no effect on their gameplay? I'd love to know your thoughts and feelings. Because obviously, some people use these to convert for like painting competitions, but I'm talking about en masse for entire armies. Am I crazy? I don't know. As you can see, I'm coming into the end game now of painting this guy, working on his big, beautiful Drake cape. Another thing which is just incredible about this set is having access to really cool capes. I don't care what Edna Mode says. Capes are awesome. They turn a standard infantryman into a commanding officer with a simple swish and a turn of a corner. So I will always be here to support cloaks. And considering when you spend a little bit of extra time on the capes, they end up looking something like this. I can only be kind of more excited to add them into the force. I think it was the cape mainly that made me want to work on a unit of Blade Guard veterans specifically for the Salamanders, and using all the different capes that these guys have designed. Unfortunately, at the time of recording this, I couldn't find my bloody Salamander transfers for his shoulder pad. It was the last touch that I really needed to do on this model, so it was kind of irritating that I couldn't find it. But that's neither here nor there. We'll just leave it black for now, and I will add a transfer on it as soon as I find them. I know I've got them tucked away here somewhere. I'm using a little bit of silver for some edge highlighting to add a little bit of scratching and weathering to the model as well, which I think adds a really nice kind of end effect. You can tell this guy's been on campaign and dueling for quite a long time, spending a lot of time in war and fighting, so pristine armor never really does it for me when it comes to Space Marines. I think they should always be kind of chipped and battered and a little bit worn. They're very rarely stepping off of a parade ground into a fight, so anyway, that's how I feel about it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. You enjoyed how this awesome Salamander looked. If you want to check out the Greytide Studios set that I took all these parts from, I will of course leave it linked down below. Please do check out all the other Greytide Studio parts as well, whether you like Black Templars or Blood Angels or Space Wolves or anything like that. They've got files for all of those, including some really cool Legion of Damn stuff. So check those out at your own convenience. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one.